Ryan Reynolds sent texts calling Justin Baldoni a thoroughbred predatory fraudster and an inexplicably toxic mess. Those texts are now in federal court documents. And while Reynolds was directing that fury outward, 5 contractors filed $2 million in unpaid debt claims against the couple's New York dream home that stopped construction entirely. But here is the detail that changes how you see Ryan Reynolds' role in this entire story. He was not just a supportive husband in the background. Court documents suggest he was the one trying to accumulate power over the project from the very beginning.
Will we maybe see a Deadpool 4?
Oh God, no. My wife and children will divorce me, and
The kids will divorce
Jimmy,
you?
I have no prenup with any of them.
Let's be very clear about who Ryan Reynolds is before we go any further. Because this story is not about a husband who happened to be dragged into his wife's legal dispute. Reynolds is not a supporting character in Hollywood. He is one of the highest paid actors on the planet. He owns Aviation Gin, which he sold to Diageo for over $600 million. He owns Wrexham AFC, which he turned into a global media phenomenon. He has built a business empire that operates entirely separately from his acting career. And according to court documents, when the situation with Justin Baldoni started developing during the production of It Ends With Us, Reynolds did not stay in the background quietly. He got involved, directly, aggressively. Court documents show that Reynolds was present at a meeting at the couple's home, where he was described as enraged, demanding an apology from Baldoni personally. And sources say his involvement in the strategic decisions around Blake's legal situation went far beyond what a supportive spouse typically does. Court documents specifically note that Reynolds wanted to accumulate power over the film project itself, which is a very specific phrase to appear in a legal filing. Accumulate power, not protect his wife, not support her emotionally. Accumulate power over a film he did not direct, did not produce, did not appear in, and was not contractually connected to. And while Reynolds' spokesperson has defended every one of those decisions publicly, the picture that emerges from the court documents is of a man who was not just standing by his wife, he was running the operation, and the text that surfaced from his phone are the detail that makes that picture impossible to look away from.
Second team is in.
Because in August 2024, during the opening weekend of It Ends With Us, Ryan Reynolds was on his phone, and what he was saying in those messages has now been read by federal judges and published in court documents available to the entire world. He sent a message to his WME agent, calling Justin Baldoni a thoroughbred predatory fraudster, an inexplicably toxic mess. And then he wrote something that reveals exactly how Reynolds processes a situation where someone has come into conflict with his wife. He wrote, "She willed this weekend into reality. Baldoni and these other buckets of dum-dum juice should be acknowledging the speculation and gossip themselves. They should be jumping in front of it in the most full-throated, unqualified way. Now, think about what that message is actually doing. Reynolds is not just venting about Baldoni privately. He is directing strategy. He is telling his WME agent what Baldoni's camp should be doing publicly. He is managing the narrative from his phone during what should have been a celebratory opening weekend for a film his wife had spent years passionate about. And Reynolds' spokesperson has defended every word of it publicly. The statement said Reynolds got involved because he saw his wife fighting to stand up against what she experienced on set. That if anything, Reynolds feels he was not angry enough, that he passionately believes in and will stand up for the basic right to a safe workplace for his wife and others. Then, now, and always. And on the surface, that framing sounds completely reasonable. A husband defending his wife. A father of 4 protecting the woman his children call mum. But here is what that framing does not address. Because Reynolds was not just sending angry texts from the sidelines. Court documents suggest his involvement extended into territory that went significantly beyond spousal support. Because the phrase that appears in those court documents is not emotional support. It is not loyalty. It is not a husband defending his wife's honor in private messages that were never supposed to be seen. The phrase is accumulate power over the film project. And that specific language matters enormously in the context of what Baldoni's legal team has been arguing since the beginning of this case. Because Baldoni's lawyers have consistently framed this entire situation as something very different from what Blake Lively's team presented it as. Their position, stated in multiple court filings, is that this was not a story about a woman standing up to a director who behaved inappropriately on set. It was a story about two of the most powerful stars in Hollywood deploying their enormous combined influence to take control of a film away from its director and production studio, and then turning their fury on Baldoni as the scapegoat when the strategy became public. Now, Baldoni has denied the underlying allegations from the beginning, and Blake Lively's legal team has consistently rejected that framing as a deliberate attempt to discredit her account. The settlement was reached without either side conceding the other's version of events. But here is what the court documents cannot be argued away from. Ryan Reynolds sent texts calling Baldoni a predatory fraudster. Reynolds was described as enraged in a meeting at the couple's home, demanding a personal apology. Reynolds wanted to accumulate power over a project he had no official creative role in. And Reynolds' own agency, WME, dropped Baldoni in December 2024, while simultaneously clarifying that Reynolds had never directly pressured anyone at the agency on his behalf. All of those things are true simultaneously, and taken together, they paint a picture of a man who is significantly more central to this entire story than the supportive husband narrative ever suggested. But here is the part about Ryan Reynolds that the Baldoni case has almost completely overshadowed. Because before any of this happened, before It Ends With Us, before the lawsuit, before the texts, there was Preserve. And what allegedly happened inside that company tells you everything about how Reynolds operates when the cameras are not pointing at him. Wait. Because here is the detail that reframes every single thing you just heard about Ryan Reynolds. Before the Baldoni texts, before the court documents, before the accumulate power language, there was a lifestyle brand called Preserve, Blake Lively's company, launched in 2014. A beautifully designed editorial and commerce platform covering food, fashion, travel, and American craftsmanship. The kind of aspirational brand that Blake's public image was perfectly built to anchor. It lasted 14 months, and then it shut down completely. Blake herself acknowledged publicly that it did not work, that she was not proud of it, that it missed the mark, and that was the version the public heard. The gracious acknowledgement, the self-aware admission, the clean ending. But here is what was allegedly happening inside Preserve while it was still running. According to reporting from MEAWW, Ryan Reynolds was the real force behind the brand, not in a supportive creative partner way, not in a silent investor way, in a control way. Sources described Reynolds as running Preserve like a tyrant, treating workers as disposable, creating an environment where employees felt they had no power and no voice and no recourse when things went wrong. Think about what that word means in context. Tyrant. From a man whose entire public persona is built on charm, on humor, on self-deprecating wit, on being the most likable person in any room he walks into. The gap between that public image and the word tyrant coming from people who worked inside his wife's company is not a small gap. It is a canyon. And here is why that detail matters right now in May 2026. Because 5 contractors are currently owed $2 million in unpaid work on the couple's New York dream home. A project that stopped entirely with no public explanation and no response from either Blake or Ryan. And sitting here watching all of this unfold, the pattern that emerges from Preserve to the Baldoni texts to the mechanics liens is the same pattern this community has been trained to recognize. What powerful people show the world, and what allegedly happens when the cameras turn off.
Bro, who in the world used to live here? This breathtaking estate in Watermill, New York is listed together for $99,500,000. a colossal 45,000 square foot compound on a 21-acre private peninsula in Demicks Bay.
Because here is what is actually happening right now in Lewisboro, New York. In April 2026, 5 contractors and subcontractors filed mechanics liens against the couple's 110-acre property. Mechanics liens are a specific legal instrument. They are not a strongly worded letter. They are not a complaint filed with a trade association. They are a formal legal claim recorded against a property title that prevents the owner from selling or refinancing without resolving the debt. And 5 separate companies filed them against the same property in the same month, claiming a combined total of $2,100,000 in unpaid work. One company alone filed a claim for more than $1,350,000 for work that included framing, plumbing, HVAC installation, electrical, drywall, masonry, the core structural work of a building, not finishing touches, not luxury upgrades, the foundational systems that make a building habitable. And the project those contractors were working on was supposed to be the couple's forever home, a 14,500 square foot main residence, a pool house, a gym, geothermal systems, a compound on 110 acres of upstate New York countryside that Blake described at a 2022 planning board hearing as her version of heaven, a place the couple was desperate to get shovels in the ground. They bought the land through an LLC back in 2018, spent years in planning, started construction, and then sometime around late 2025 or early 2026, construction slowed and then stopped entirely, with 5 companies still owed over $2 million for work they had already completed. And neither Blake Lively nor Ryan Reynolds has said a single public word about any of it. Not a statement, not an explanation, not an acknowledgement that the liens even exist. And the timing of when construction stopped sits in a very specific place alongside everything else happening in their lives at exactly that moment. Because let's look at what was happening in the months that construction allegedly slowed and stopped. Late 2025. That is the same period when Blake Lively's legal battle with Justin Baldoni was consuming everything. The failed February 2026 settlement conference where both parties spent 6 hours in separate rooms and walked away with no deal. The mounting legal fees on both sides. The pretrial motions. The sealed evidence fight involving Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds' own private communications. The Section 47.1 motion that Blake's team was building around Baldoni's dismissed countersuit. And underneath all of that, a 14,500 square foot dream home in Lewisboro sitting unfinished, with contractors waiting, and then filing liens. Sources say the project had been a passion project for the couple since they quietly purchased the land in 2018. 8 years of planning and dreaming and describing the local community as heaven. And the moment the legal war reached its most expensive and consuming point, the shovels stopped moving. And then on May 4th, 2026, the settlement was reached. $0 exchanged, no NDA. Blake walked the Met Gala alone. Ryan posted a selfie. Baldoni started planning a $10 million book deal. And 5 contractors were still owed $2 million for work they had already completed on a home that nobody was publicly talking about. Think about what that combination of facts tells you about the financial reality behind the public image of one of Hollywood's most glamorous and seemingly untouchable couples. The charm, the wit, the coordinated red carpet appearances. The Mother's Day tribute Reynolds posted calling Blake kind and fearless. All of it sitting alongside $2 million in unpaid contractor debt on a stalled dream home that neither of them has addressed publicly. And sitting here watching this from Oslo, what strikes me most is not the money. It is the silence. Because this community has learned that when powerful people go quiet about something specific, it is never nothing. And there is still one more detail about this story that connects everything together in a way that nobody else has covered yet.
I'm Ryan Reynolds. For those of you who don't know, I recently worked with my gin brand, Aviation, and my beloved football club, Wrexham AFC, to create a new limited time bottle. No, it's early. I'm proud to say it's been a huge hit, not only in the US and Wrexham, but in places that we never expected. I mean, it's...
Because here is the thing about Ryan Reynolds that makes the contractor debt story so significant. This is not a man who does not understand money. This is not a celebrity who handed his finances to a business manager and forgot to check in. Reynolds sold aviation gin for over $600 million. He co-owns Wrexham AFC and turned it into a global streaming phenomenon on Disney+. He has built and sold businesses at a level that most people in Hollywood never come close to. He understands contracts. He understands financial obligations. He understands what happens when you stop paying people who have already done work for you. Which means the 5 mechanics liens sitting against that Lewisboro property right now are not the result of carelessness or forgetfulness or administrative error. They are the result of a deliberate decision. A decision to stop paying, to stop the project, to let the work sit unfinished. While 5 companies filed legal claims against a property owned by one of the wealthiest couples in the entertainment industry. And nobody has explained why. Not Blake, not Ryan, not a spokesperson, not a lawyer, nothing, just silence, while the dream home sits. And the contractors wait. And the Section 47.1 ruling from the Baldoni case is still pending in a New York federal court, with no appeal possible, and a number that could be significant tripled, landing on people connected to this story before the end of the year. Which means the financial picture around Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds right now is significantly more complicated than the selfies and the red carpet appearances and the Mother's Day tributes suggest. And this community has been watching complicated pictures long enough to know that the part nobody is talking about publicly is almost always the part that matters most. And that is where we land today. And if you have been with this community long enough, you already know what this story is really about underneath the texts and the liens and the stalled construction and the missing statements. It is about the gap. The gap between what gets shown to the world and what is allegedly happening behind the closed doors of a 14,500 square foot home that nobody is currently building. Ryan Reynolds called Justin Baldoni a thoroughbred predatory fraudster in texts that are now in federal court documents. He was described as enraged in a meeting demanding a personal apology. Court documents say he wanted to accumulate power over a film project he had no official role in. He allegedly ran his wife's lifestyle brand like a tyrant and treated workers as disposable. And now 5 contractors are owed $2 million for work they completed on a dream home that stopped construction entirely, with no explanation, no statement, no acknowledgement from either Blake or Ryan that any of it is happening. And while all of that is sitting in the background, the Section 47.1 motion from the Baldoni case is still pending in a federal court in New York. A ruling that could result in significant financial penalties against Baldoni and his associates, with no right of appeal, coming before the end of the year, which means the financial and legal landscape around this couple is significantly more complicated in May 2026 than the selfies and the red carpet appearances and the United Front are designed to make it look. This community has been watching these stories long enough to understand that the image is never the whole picture, that the gap between what powerful people present publicly and what is allegedly happening privately is always where the real story lives. And the real story of Ryan Reynolds, the texts, the tyrant label, the $2 million in contractor debt, is a story that Hollywood has been very carefully not telling, until now. Now I want to hear from you, because this community always calls it correctly. Do you think Ryan Reynolds is the misunderstood husband who did everything right standing up for his wife? Or is he the most complicated figure in this entire saga whom nobody has properly examined until now? Drop your answer in the comments right now. And if you want to understand the full Baldoni settlement and who actually won, we broke that down completely in our previous video right here on Fame Insight. Watch that one immediately after this. The 2 stories together reveal something about this situation that neither one shows on its own. I will see you there.